So the Alter Rebbe had a technical problem. He was overwhelmed with people coming to see him. He couldn't any longer see so many people in Yechidus. And in fact, it says over there in that letter, in the beginning of this letter that's not printed here, he said, if you don't stop coming, I'm going to leave the country. I'm overwhelmed. So you have to put that into context when you, Hillel, I'm answering you, particularly addressing your point. When you read this letter, he was simply overwhelmed and he couldn't any longer. And he says, this is not what you need a Rebbe for. If you're coming to know how to daven and learn better and avodas Hashem, I'm here from you. And even there, he put limits. It was called Takonos Lozhnya. The rules for coming to Lozhnya, where he was at the time. And it was very organized, how many, once a year and what month. And he had certain Hasidim coming this month, certain coming the other month. It was a very detailed description of when you could come to see him for Yechidus. And he said, if you don't follow that, I'm out of here. So now with this in mind, we go about to learn the text inside. But at the end of the day, it's like you said, Hillel, Hasidim always came to Rebbe's to ask them for Gashmias. So what exactly he really wanted to accomplish with this was not done. I mean, at least not in the period that we know, and from what I'm told by my teachers and their teachers, it's been this way not just in Chabad, but in other Hasidic movements as well. But again, I don't think that they left a tzava, a will, a written document. Don't come to see me. I'm overwhelmed. I don't believe that other Hasidic Rebbes did that. Not that I know of, at least at this point. But Alter Rebbe, we have it here, and this is the famous Igeres HaKodesh 22. I just want to say one last thing. Some academics who are not, observant and religious and Jewish, but, have taken this and they conclude that this is where Hasidim went wrong. And that the Rebbe himself is telling you, I'm not made to give you Gashmias answers, material advice. Go to a lawyer and a doctor and a therapist for those issues, right? So they do take what he says literally, and again, it's hard to argue because it says what it says. It says what it says. So you could philosophize, but again, what that's why I'm pointing out, and so for whatever reason, I don't know why the Sons didn't include it. If they would have included the first part of this letter here, I think it would have helped a lot. But for whatever reason, it wasn't included, and I don't know why. So one takes this at face value, and you basically say, you guys are not listening to your Rebbe, and more so, your Rebbe is telling you he's not made for that. And some in the academic world go off on that, where they come up with a philosophy, which is that a Rebbe is not made for this, and the whole idea of going to a Rebbe for Gashmias is a mistake. So I'm just pointing out to you that there is that shita out there, although it's not mekubal by frum Yidden, Hasidim in general. Yes, Hillel.
Would you say it's fair to say that this is like an expression of the divergence between the emphasis in Chabad on kind of the Chassid and the, and the relationship with the Rebbe and the kind of the doctrine of the Tzaddik that became so defining of like the Hasidus from the Noam Elimelech and those other schools?
You touch upon a very good thing. It's been spoken about, written about at great length, your point, and I would say yes. I would say that is I would say a true analysis, definitely. But again, it has to be handled with golden gloves. But Yes, yes. In Polish, Hungarian Hasidus, basically the primary aspect of a Rebbe is advising on Gashmias. There's no question about that. But in the Chabad ethos, just learning a sefer like Tanya, it's all about Avodas Hashem. Not that they're not about Avodas Hashem. Every tzaddik and every chassid is about, but the way the Avodas Hashem is in Chabad is like you said. It's more on the, be more concerned about the ruchnis. I'll tell you a simple, and I really want to learn the text. When I grew up, what I saw was like from the here again in America. I don't know, in Eretz Yisrael it might be different, but in America, like the poorest Hasidim were Lubavitcher, Chabad, growing up. It's changed today, Baruch Hashem. Lots of young people are making nice money. But, the Satmar Hasidim, the Bauer Hasidim, the Belzer Hasidim here were all in business. They were all working people, By us, we had people who were mashpiyim, and by us a mashpiyah is a big thing, and it takes hours. Then even those that are not mashpiyim are supposed to daven each day for a few hours, and Shabbos for many hours. In other words, the emphasis of Avodas Hashem in Chabad is like you said, it's very much a mainstay. It is the ikar. And the Gashmi is tuffle, is ancillary. Well, and that boils down to that, you're not into making money, and you don't have as much, okay? And it goes along the lines, by the way, with the Alter Rebbe's Shita, different than the other tzaddikim, Talmidei HaMagid, where he sided with the Russians over Napoleon, right? And what was his philosophy? Napoleon, emancipation. He said, yeah, very nice, emancipation, but emancipation means you're going to drop Torah and mitzvahs. Freedom, right? So they sided with Napoleon because we'll be free. We've been oppressed. The Alter Rebbe said no, and so you could see that the Alter Rebbe in his shita, in his pure shita, in his approach was very much ruchnia. So yes, I would say that you're correct in your observation, but nonetheless, as we say that. Chabad Hasidim still, when they needed an Eitzah, I'm not talking about a bracha now, I'm not talking about a tefillah, I'm talking about an Eitzah, an advice, they went into the Rebbe. And it's not just with our Rebbe, like I printed, 400 pages of the Rebbe's advice. I have a book on practical things, from medical things to financial things, right? But even the Frierdiker Rebbe, there's testimony from the closest people of the Frierdiker Rebbe that people came to him in Poland, in Notwotsk, in Varsha, Notwotsk, and he was helping the Rebbe. His grandfather wasn't so well, and he heard from the behind the curtain, because he, it was private kind of course. He heard how people are crying their heart out. They don't have what to eat. Rebbe, help me, do that. And just saying that there was no. Now so you can say, well, that was in Poland because there was Polish Hasidim mostly, not Chabadniks. But I'm telling you that Chabad Hasidim also, again, not as much. I will agree. I don't think as much. Not even a question. Because let's say the Rebbe Rashab, from what I heard from the Rebbe Rashab, it was even hard to get into him, and even when you got into him, he was very brief. So, he was so much involved in either communal things for Jewish people or teaching and learning Hasidus. In other words, how many, you think that the average Lubavitcher student in Lubavitch Yeshiva saw the Rashab constantly? Only when he was in Lubavitch, only when he came out to say a Maimah Friday night, and maybe Shabbos day, I think he davened in his room. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like here in America when the Rebbe davened towards the last 10, 15, 20 years of his life or so with a minyan 3 times a day, and you got to saw him, and then before that there was Yechidus 3 times a week. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of access to him. But from Midori Doris, it doesn't seem that there was, as much access to a Rebbe. So therefore, subsequently, the amount of time you had to ask for Gashmis was less. Okay, let's see what he says inside. Igeres HaKodesh Chav Beis 22, page Kuf Lamed Dalet. Ahuvai Achev Erei, my beloved brothers and friends, me'ava musuteres techochas megula. It is from hidden love, latent love, that I reveal my musr, kind of. I'm going to scold you, but you should know it's coming from a good place. Okay? It's a verse. Remember the days of old, the years of old, the generations. In other words, I have a message to share with you that's based on our history as Yidden, etc. Here's his question, and the way it's supposed to read the next words, Avram, is Hahoisa kazois mimois olam. It's a question. Has there ever, from beginning of time, has there ever been such a situation? Where do you guys find this custom? Find it for me. Where do you find, even in just one book of the wise people of Yisrael, the early ones, the latter ones, a custom what you do is you come to a tzaddik and you ask him for advice. Atzaz Gashmias, for material matter. Where have you ever seen such a thing? Kadas malasa is binyon elam, to know what to do in worldly matters. Hagashmi, the physical. Stop. And even if you look, the Rebbe says, at the early wise people of the early generations of the sages, the Tanoim and the Aramarayim, Asher Kol Roz Leonis Lei, there was nothing that was hidden from them. And the paths, it's a beautiful expression, Yoini, the paths of heaven were open and clear to these great scholars. Stop. So we don't find that you should go to these Chachamim and ask them for advice. Who do we find you did go to? Kiyim, rather. Nevi'im mamish. When it came to prophets, Asher hoyu lefnim Yisrael kishmuel araya. When it cut, like for example, the story in Yishmuel, Shmuel was called the seer, right? Because he saw the Asher holach elov Shaul. Shaul HaMelech, King Shaul, came to him, Lidrish Hashem, al Dvaru Hisanas, to ask about God regarding the sheep over there. It was a whole story. Shenevdu, that were lost, L'Aviv, to his father, and he asks Shmuel, the prophet, where are they? In other words, he's asking advice of Shmuel HaMelech. So the Alter Rebbe says, that's right. Prophets, Nevi'im, give you advice. He says, for in truth, all matters of Torah and fear of God, heaven, are not comprehended rak b'nevuah, only through prophecy. And he quotes, V'loy lachamim lechem, and the chachamim don't have bread, meaning they don't give you bread. Bread for that you need, if you want gashmis, you have to go to a navi. Everything's from heaven except from the fear of heaven. There are 7 things that are concealed. A person doesn't know how he makes his parnosa. And a person doesn't know when the Mashiach will come. So we see that there's a comparison between parnosa, not knowing how you're going to make parnosa, and what? And Mashiach. So the only ones that can tell you that is a Navi, right? But going to a regular Chacham, a regular Talmud Chacham, that's not his venue. That's his point here. Now it's a rhetorical question. It says over there that he's advice and he's a chacham to the deaf ones. Chazal say that we benefit from a chacham, from his advice. Hainu b'divrei Torah. The Alter Rebbe says you're learning pshat in that wrong. It's not referring to gashmias, to material matter. It's the advice that he gives for the study of Torah. Hanikra Toshia, which is called in the verse in Tanakh Toshia, salvation. Kamay Merazal Yoetz Zeh Sheyedei La'aber Shonim. Who is called a Yoetz? Right? Like Yoini, you have the word in Eretz Yisrael, a yoetzet, women who are like yoetzes in the Bezdin. A yoetz is an advisor. Chazal say, who is a yoetz? Who is a yoetz? The one who knows how to calculate the months and to make leap years. They know exactly when, right? So you're talking about different Torah. And to set the right time for when the new month is and all that. The secret of making a leap year is called advice and secret. Beloshen Torah, in the terminology of Torah, it says over there. Says the Alter Rebbe, the truth is, I'll tell you, those that want to listen to me, love ruins the straight path. In other words, you're blinded. Loving yourself is ksuseinayim, it covers the eyes. Turn the page to 268, not to see the truth. And so this is like some heavy musar. The Alter Rebbe says, you know why you guys continue to ask me about Gashmias? Because you have too much love for Gashmias. You can imagine? He's talking to Yidden in Russia 200 years ago, had barely what to eat. And he says you have too much ava, too much love for Gashmias, and therefore your self-love for Gashmias conceals the truth, and you don't want to recognize the truth, and you come to ask me for Gashmias. Let's continue. Avosum l'chayaguf l'shem shemayim. Alter Rebbe says, I know you guys are not spending money on Mercedes and vacations in the Bahamas. I know that you're talking about Gashmias that you need for your family. But nevertheless, it's Gashmias. With a burning fire, passion of fire from love, nafshem of their soul, as Hashem, they love God. Therefore, the pain that the body has from not having enough food and not enough sleep and the basic Gashmias is very painful, and you have tzar. Hashem Yirachem, may God have mercy. Then you call him the kabel klal, and you can't hack it anymore. Achim avidim al daitom. Very hard words, until like you become cuckoo. You go over your knowledge of knowing that you shouldn't be asking for Gashmias. Lachtes ragleim italy. You move your feet. You chop your feet from city to city, and you go around lishel eitzes merochek to ask advice from this person and that person from distant. V'lo shoel Hashem, and you don't turn to Hashem lo shuvelav to do tshuva. Beruach nemicha v'achrona beguf, with a low spirit, meaning a humble spirit, and a subjugation of the body, l'kabel tekachosai, to accept Hashem's scolding. If Hashem punishes you, Hashem makes it hard in a certain physical, material way, that means He's giving you a message to wake up and do tshuva. Because Hashem, the one who He loves, the more He loves you, you hear that? It's very hard to hear these words. The more the Gashmias is less by you, the more He loves you. So the Alter Rebbe makes a drastic remark, and he says, you know why you keep on asking for advice in Gashmias is because you are too concerned about your Gashmias. He gives an example. A father who's wise and righteous, who hits his son because he needs to get a patch. The son doesn't turn his back to the father to get help to stop him from the patch, or an advocate to advocate for him and before his father, the merciful one, the righteous one, and the chassid. he turns his face to face, panim, and he accepts and tolerates the patch. Bi'ava, with love, that he does for him all his days. The previous Rebbe has a beautiful word here. You see in the beginning of the mashal, Avram, it says, Av harachamon, chacham, v'tzadik. If you go further down, it says, the father is Rachamon, Tzaddik, and Chosid. Why does he add the word Chosid? So the Frierdiker Rebbe says a Chosid wouldn't patch. So when he talks about the father giving a patch, he doesn't say the word Chosid. When he talks about the son responding, the son responds that my father is a Rachamon, a Tzaddik, and a Chosid. Because he's taking it in the right way. But when he uses the mashal, the Frierdiker Rebbe doesn't use the word chassid when he's giving the patch. It's a very, very important insight into human psychology and into your work, Hillel, and us as parents. The patch, it depends where it's coming from. If it's coming from, a father doesn't patch. Even if he patches, if he's a real father, it's not a patch. You understand? If he's a real chassid, if he's a real chassid, and I don't mean chassid in the classic sense of a Hasidic Jew. I mean a chassid, he's very pious. So he doesn't, the patch is not a patch. Okay. We'll stop here, and tomorrow we'll continue the rest of the chapter. So I guess I'll take it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.